Welcome to this video tutorial. Creating a web app is a process in itself, and this video demonstrates how you begin with a map of your process as the foundation of your web app. We're going to consider a process you may deploy to manage flexible working applications. If we were to draw the process by hand, we'd begin with our trigger event, which would be the desire by a member of staff to have a flexible working arrangement. That trigger initiates the first step in the process, which is for the applicant to apply for flexible working, which could involve completing a form and submitting it. The output from that step is that the flexible working has been applied for. That itself becomes a trigger event to the next step in the process, which will be the manager receiving the request, acknowledging the request, and then processing the application, during which time the manager may wish to consult with one or more third parties to get advice or input into the decision-making process. Somewhere along the line, the manager will make a decision and will convey that decision to the applicant. The decision, being the output from one step, becomes a trigger for the next step, which is for the applicant to review the decision and decide whether to appeal or to accept the decision, at which point the process will terminate. That's how it might look when we've drawn it. Now let's see what it looks like as a map in Mentor. So here we are in Mentor Mapping. I have our blank canvas. Let's have a look at what maps we already have. You can see we've got a number of folders, each containing different maps. And somewhere down here there'll be a folder called tutorials. If there isn't, we'll simply click on the new folder and create one. So there we are, we have a folder called tutorials. That's where I'm going to place the map that we're about to create. What I want to do is start a new map, which I can do quickly and easily using this button here. And as you'll see, the system has created me a trigger event and the first step in the process. If you recall, when we drew the map earlier, the trigger event was want to FlexiWork. So we're going to do exactly that, want to FlexiWork, and that triggered the first step in the process, which was apply for flexible working. Okay, so we'll apply for flexible working. Okay. Now, if the display box is not big enough, you can stretch it and move it about a little bit to make it bigger. Same with the labels for the connectors. Okay, you'll notice I've got my helper turned off. That's because I'm familiar with the system. The key to it is really just getting a small menu by clicking in a square. You'll see that the menu has only got items enabled that are relevant to, in this case, an empty square. And what I want to do is add the next step in the process so I can connect from the first to the second step. So I'll add that step. Now you'll notice a difference this time. If I click in the same square, the menu is different. I can't add another step because the square is already occupied, but I could remove it. I could put a start mentor in there if I wanted, but that would be inappropriate because we've already got a start mentor. We want to connect, or we could put an end mentor, or I could simply close the menu. So I'm going to click again. What I want to do is connect. Now connecting, you position the crosshair just inside the box where you want the connector to exit from, click, and then position it inside the box where you want it to enter to, and left click, and it drops the connector in there for you. So referring back to our drawn process map, the label on this connector was actually the output from the employee applying for flexible working, and we called it applied. It is just a label. It's nice if it's got some meaning to it. That triggered the second step in the process, which would be the manager going through various activities to effect processing the application, and we called that process application. So there we are. We have the first two steps in the process. We then talked about the manager possibly wanting to consult and get input from third parties. Now you'll notice that when I use the start a new mentor in Manage Maps back here, okay, I did a new map. It actually moved us to position in the second box down, or the second row down. So it gives us a little bit of space to play with up here. I want to add in the third step, which was for third parties to consider and advise. So I'm going to left click, add the step, going to left click again, go for a connector, and I'm going to connect from there to there. And this is consult, was the label we used for that one when we drew the map. So we're going to consult, and the person that we consult with will consider our consultation. Whoops. Consider, oh, consider and advise. So it might be that we're going to HR to get some advice. It might be that we're asking a colleague how this person applying for flexible work, how it would affect a colleague or another unit. So the output from consider and advise will be some advice, and we're going to create the connector exiting from that step and entering back into this step here, and we'll say advise is the label. Okay. So we're beginning to take shape, and what we said was there's an awful lot can happen here, and it might be that the manager visits this step in the process a number of times, doing different things at different times through the process. Certainly there will be a need for the manager to acknowledge receipt of the application. There may be a need for the manager to organise and hold a meeting with the employee and discuss the requirements and discuss how the impact of the flexible working application being granted could be managed. So the output from the application will be a decision, and that will be the trigger event into the next step. So I just click in the square, click add step. I'm going to click in one of the squares again, get the connect option, and I'm going to click where I want the connector to leave a step, and then click into where I want it to enter a step. So the output from the processing the application is a decision in this case, and that decision triggers the employee reviewing the decision and making a decision of their own as to whether or not they're going to simply accept the decision, in which case it would be an end mentor. We're ending the process there, so we can just simply call it end, or we can say application successful or application completed or whatever. The alternative output from the reviewing the decision is an appeal. So we're going to click again in the square, get the menu, we're going for a connect, and we're going to connect from in here to in here, and we're going to say this is an appeal. So there we have it. We have now built the map that looks very similar, almost identical to the map that we drew earlier, and what we now need to do is to save it. Now, you could have saved it earlier, but I'm saving now. I'm going to click on the folder I want to save it into, so that's now highlighted. I'm going to give the map a name. I'm going to call it Flexwork. And we could give it an optional description. So this is a processing a flexible working application. Okay, that's nothing much I need to do now. I can give it some properties. In fact, if you try and save it for the first time without properties, it will actually tell you you must set the map properties first. Okay, so we'll go here. Now, security level is dealt with later, but basically you can assign a process a security level of 1 to 15. That means that any documents or content that exist within that process will assume the same security level, and it protects viewing of information from users with a lower security level. Map type. So what have we got? We've got testing, we've got demonstrations. We want a map type as a tutorial, which we haven't got. So what we're going to do is add a new map type, and we're going to call it tutorial. And it is as simple as that. It will go to the bottom of the list. Next time you log in, it will be sorted and in order. So there's our map type tutorial. Simple. We'll leave it as a mentor date unique ID. It's just a unique reference that will be generated as the system reference for this case. It is searchable. We will at some point come back and change that. We might actually use the applicant's name, personnel reference number, might be the applicant's name and date. You can use all sorts of things to generate a case reference. So we'll say OK there, and now so we've got our folder highlighted, and we'll now click Save. So we've now got current version 0.01 created today at 1328. That's our map completed. This is the foundation for our flexible working web app.